on. Can you guys hear me? All right. Just a thumbs up or something. Are you able to hear me? Cool. Thanks. Awesome. Appreciate you guys taking the time today. So I'm Guy, one of the co-founders of Deepline. We haven't met before. Appreciate you guys taking the time today. So in terms of how we run these office hours, typically I have a couple examples of things that we've been working on with customers that are usually relevant for some companies, for what some folks are doing, about how we're using Deepline to solve particular problems. I usually do ones that I find pretty fun, but if there's specific problems that you guys have, feel free to just raise a hand, make sure that we cover it. Or if you have questions, you can have them in chat as well, and happy to dig into anything. Otherwise, I'll just get started with one example to kind of get the wheels turning. And then if you guys have anything in particular, feel free to ask in chat or interrupt. So examples that I was planning to run through today. First is public data. How do you find kind of niche signals that are not necessarily like obvious, especially in markets that you might not be an expert in? So a lot of folks in the GTM space are consultants. They're going into a company that might have a really niche product. We've done stuff for mining safety companies. This one that I'm going to walk through is for grocery tech, grocery store tech for independent grocery stores. A lot of stuff around restaurants where I don't, off the top of my head, know everything about the data sets that will work for that environment. So how do you kind of build a workflow that lets you solve any situation without being an expert in it already? And it's a combination of like tools that are out there in terms of research, and then combining them in a particular way, because there's usually just like a couple routes that you can use for most cases. Related to that, I'm going to go through a cool like other skill that we've been kind of integrating into Deepline, and we'll probably borrow a little bit of what they're doing going forward. Waterfall optimization. How do you make sure that the waterfall sources that you're using is the best for your particular use case? So you might want full coverage in some cases. Other times you might just want to optimize for cost and volume. What order and which providers you use in those two cases might differ. So depending on what factors you're optimizing for, you can kind of give guidance to Claude Code, and it'll give you the optimal option for what you're doing. And then the last piece was just we have a new workflow and database experience. The quick summary there is workflows are now a little bit easier to navigate through. So you can have like sub workflows or tiny like workflow pieces that you can piece together to build larger workflows. So you can think of it like building blocks of workflows that you reuse over and over again. And then the database, the main difference, which we're pretty excited about, is all the data that you capture locally in CSVs today is mirrored in the database. So we have like temp scratch tables that you can go and you can see the exact status of a task over time. Awesome. Anything else folks want to cover? Otherwise I can get going on this particular example. Cool. Feel free to interrupt me at any time. I can't see chat all the time, so hands or just going off mute is totally acceptable. Awesome. So example we're going to start with is this New York independent grocery stores. This process would work for basically any major city in the US, would potentially work for Europe as well. You just kind of need to change the pattern a little bit to fit your local market. So the problem that we are solving for this customer is independent grocery stores. It's software built for those use cases. So these aren't like big chains with hundreds of places that have a big inventory system. They're small mom and pop shops. Why is this really hard? Most of them do not have websites. This is like a corner store market. Almost none of them have LinkedIn profiles. And almost all data providers that people typically use for these types of challenges are not going to be able to work with those, because those two are actually the prerequisites for almost every provider. So there's a couple that might support like first name, last name, and company name and try to return something. Or they'll have you go look for LinkedIn profiles first and then use that. But if you don't have LinkedIn and you don't have a company website, generally it's going to be really hard. And then the other way that people historically tried to solve this is real estate has this problem where you might want to know who owns the building, and then that building owner is an LLC, but whoever owns the building might be the person that you want to. So there's ways to map like a property record to a person, and that works for other use cases, but wouldn't work for this one because most of the time the owners of the property are not the same as the owner of the grocery store. So this is a pretty standard small business use case in the US. So we'll walk through how we solved it. And this is the approach I use for pretty much every use case that I come up against. And almost always we're able to get to like a good outcome. And let's see. Yeah, so the process that I break it down into, it's essentially like research and go find all the information that we don't know and where we can find the information that we need to solve this problem. So with last 30 days, what this is a skill that adds Reddit and Twitter essentially to the search that you're doing. And it also improves your like search query optimization of you ask it to go find a particular type of information. It will then return all the different data sources that might be useful for this particular thing. So if somebody has another niche use case that they're struggling to find a good data source or they don't feel like is covered, I'm happy to run an example live on the call here, but you can kind of think of it just as a research step. And then number two, Deepline GTM, this is taking what we learned in the research step and then executing against it. And there's one step I started adding to public data sources that we've added to the prompts. And essentially what we do is have the agent or either browser-based, and if we're doing a high volume, or Claude in Chrome, navigate through the public API or the public website for a lot of business data like government permits, business licenses, ownership logs. Those are public, but you have to like log in through a UI. You can combine the navigation agent with the network logs to get like a mini API doc that lets you programmatically access that information at scale. You might have to occasionally deal with like captchas and things, but for the most part, it can find either a public API or something more programmatically available and start to find ways to get this at scale. So last piece is combining all of these into a workflow or finding like more standard data providers to fill in gaps. Awesome. So on the sample that we ran for this customer, we got 100 stores in 2 batches. They already kind of have Google Maps data. That's pretty common. That's a pretty common data source. On that, you can get the business phone number, but we're trying to get to owner information. And so from that Google Maps data, we have all the restaurants and the grocery stores, and then we have the phones of the business. I'm going to go one level down. We then use the public active corporation list to find the owner name of the business at that location. So we're taking in the grocery stores and saying, let's go find the owner name associated or the chairman of the LLC that owns that. And that typically is the owner of the grocery store. And then we used an off-the-shelf API called OpenMart that specializes in this type of data. They had 17% email coverage. I can show you some examples, but essentially it's a lot of like info at business website. These are really only companies that have websites, which are larger grocery stores, which might be a better fit for them. But we also want to just get everyone. And they're just not going to have websites. They're not going to have business emails. Talking to the person who works at this company, they were saying like most of them are using a Yahoo email from 2001 and rarely check it even. So email, it might just not be a good fit here. The other thing that we ran into is owner mobile numbers from standard providers like LeadMagic, Hunter, Prospeo. they're not going to have these types of SMB data points because there's no LinkedIn, and that's required to search on a lot of them. The company name and the business name isn't specific enough. It might just be like local neighborhood market or something generic on the name. So you can't actually search with those parameters that you have, and most of them don't have websites. So you can't even start the search for these folks. And that's kind of the problem that this team's struggling with. So what we're able to do is combine these data sources plus one more that I'll show on the next one for reverse address lookup to get the cases where the name and the phone number, the name attached to the phone number and the business license matched. And so this is designed for New York. It would probably work fairly well in like any major city in the US. They're generally starting in cities, so we can start there. Smaller cities might not have this information publicly hosted, or the state registry sometimes is available as well. And then we combined all this information, created a workflow. And the last step was getting the data sources. So here we used a tool called Tracerify first. This one looks at property ownership, and that did not work for this. It returned the real estate owner. Acris basically told us that I, again, don't know what any of these data sources really are, but I did spot check to make sure. And we basically saw that it either showed the lease owner or the business owner. We didn't really get phone numbers from these. The last one is the skip tracing reverse lookup. And that was the one that we were able to get actual owner mobiles on. So there's a couple providers we're testing out here. I'm not going to pick one specific one, but the one that we are getting the best results from is called Endato, and it will be added to the platform soon. Right now, we're QAing that that's good at scale and will work for other use cases as well. But we're generally seeing really good results on restaurant and like SMB data, and we generally got pretty good results here. So I'll stop there. Can walk through any questions folks might have, but the overall logic here is use last 30 days to research public data sets, combine that with data sets we already know and trust, like Google Maps via Serper or data for SEO. We have a ton of options for that. Just with these two data sets, we've spent barely anything. We're probably on like a tenth of a cent, so a thousandth of a dollar per entry so far. OpenMart didn't have great coverage. I think that was about 10 cents. And then the skip tracing, depending on the provider, was anywhere from 10 cents to 25 cents to get that owner mobile number. And for this particular use case, that was within our target range. Cool. Any feedback, questions, anything not make sense? If it didn't make sense for you, it probably doesn't make sense for others as well. Cool. Is anybody working on SMB data right now?
Hey, my name is Isaac. Thanks for the explanation. Yeah, the SMB data is the hardest part. Once you step away from the common denominator of having a LinkedIn profile to find data, it becomes very complicated.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely what we experienced as well. Do you have a particular use case that is top of mind?
Yeah, listen, I'm part of a lending company, and we're primarily focused on small, medium-sized businesses, restaurants, construction, let's see, health clinics, chiropractors, the usual suspects. And getting the good data is very difficult. Like you say, OpenMart is spotty. And yeah, so and then, skip tracers like Inform and Go is like 25 cents. It's, numbers are crazy. Once you step away from the kind of the traditional go-to-market tool sets, it would be great if you guys can put together some kind of a workflow. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. So we do have a couple providers on the platform right now that are fairly cost effective. It's anywhere from like 7 cents to 15 cents, and we're working to find better priced ones. Trestle is one that is on the platform right now. Basically, what we found is like the data set that you're trying to find is actually telecommunications data. So data coming from like Verizon and T-Mobile and being aggregated by these providers. And skip tracing is one like model of that, which real estate companies tend to use. But we're actually seeing a lot of the phone providers have APIs that when you use them in a particular way, if you have the name and address and like contact information, especially if they've opted in, if it's like a qualification step, we were able to use those fairly cost effectively. So yeah, I can kind of show you the workflow here.
Yeah, Trestle is pretty good. And plus Trestle includes do not call litigator list, which is fantastic. You said Endato, right? I never heard of it. Thank you for that. So is it on your platform yet?
No, we're signing the contract with them to get it integrated, but we did this as like a sample for that provider. We tried 3 or 4 other ones. They were by far the best. So I think they're the ones we're going to move forward with. It'll probably be live by next week.
Great. Looking forward to that.
Awesome.
Listen, what about things like, something similar to open corporates, to Secretary of State type of APIs? Anything in the works there?
Yeah, so we reached out to open corporates. A lot of the onboarding process is just getting a meeting on the books with some of these companies. But we have one other one active right now. Think Deepline GTM. Can you show me subsidiary information for Boeing from our existing data sources and use last 30 days. I'll do this in 2 steps. So CD transcripts. Last 30 days. So we can use it. Awesome. Yeah, so Disco Lake will have it, but I don't think that will show up for you guys right now. Let me double check. Let's see if that works. And last 30 days, find subsidiary information hierarchy for public companies and find public APIs to solve it. Cool. Cool. Yeah, this is the one I expected to use and work with. So predict leads has a parent category and parent subsidiary relationships. So this is very cost effective and that should work. And then we have Apollo as well. So between those two, you should get a fairly good set of coverage.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's testing out the subsidiary list, and then last 30 days. This is what I mentioned at the beginning for like the research step. So this will kind of like, if you give it a really specific definition of what you're trying to do, like you mentioned chiropractors, restaurants, anything like that. It is basically looking at like social media plus web search, YouTube, it looks at Instagram and TikTok. And that like social media research actually gets pretty good results for things that don't have a great like web search presence. And so that's why I usually run this first. It will find data providers that are better. And then we can actually let the agent go try all of them on your data set and say, all right, can you go get samples from all of these providers? They often have like if it's a public site, you can just like put in your email and log in and it will do that for you. If it's a private API, there's like a trial system occasionally it will work and do the sign up for me, or I'll just sign up and then give it a key and tell it to go test it out. And that's generally how we find new providers for particular use cases of go do the research, figure out if there's any that we don't know about that would be valuable for this particular problem. And that usually gets us pretty far along. Cool. Awesome. So here's what we got for Boeing. It ended up using Apollo for this one, and then found the Boeing subsidiaries here. I think this is a little bit incomplete. So the other thing that will probably get returned in last 30 days will be the, if it's a public company, it will do the 10K docs. 10Ks, I think, generally have all of the information. Yeah, SEC Exhibit 21. It will go get those as well. So it'll try a couple different approaches and then see which one works best for you. It will aggregate the different approaches. So it will take what it learned from Apollo plus what it learned from the public data, see where the gaps are, then try to get you like one complete output. Does that answer your question though, Isaac? Generally,
Yes.
I do the research step and then it'll go find the right sources there.
Yeah, you have, do you have, this is recorded, this video?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, good. Because I'm not able to look directly, but I gather
Oh.
you're using Claude, right?
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, non-US hierarchy, we are working on a provider there. Open corporates, and then there's Hit Horizons, I think is the European one. So we also just have like a backlog of providers to onboard. So if there's anything that's like very top of mind or blocking a urgent problem, we're generally able to get that going. The other thing you can do is like if you're doing a country that is not US, this is really good for researching like what's best in Europe, Spain, Germany, with like public information on why it's considered good or bad or why it believes that. Cool.
Okay. Fantastic. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. Kind of related to that, I can show one more example. We went over this one a couple weeks ago, but it keeps coming up. So just want to give like one more kind of view into it. And so can you guys see my screen?
Did you stop sharing?
Oh, shoot. I wonder when I stopped sharing. Sorry about that. Were you guys able to see my terminal here when I was looking? Were you able to see the results here? Before?
No.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, my bad. So this is the results for the last 30 days call. It recommends a bunch of public APIs, private APIs. We would now tell Deepline, go try the public ones first, and then try the private ones if we can't get a solution from the public ones. And that's generally just like the pattern I use over and over again. This research step, find the right options, and then Deepline should have the tools to programmatically access these sources whenever possible. And then here are the results from Apollo. So it tried predict leads, disco-like, and yeah, didn't find information there. And then Apollo did return. So it tried 3 different endpoints, got the best results from Apollo. So that is what it's going to recommend going forward. But you can essentially combine these two and say, well, we already have all this free public data. Let's prioritize that and then use Apollo or something paid to fill in the gaps.
You guys have Disco-like on the platform?
We do, yeah.
Oh, okay, great. Let me ask you a question. For cross data, do you have all their endpoints?
Is there one in particular that you are thinking of? We
For
should have all their
recruiting,
endpoints.
for recruiting, to be able to pull all of the data from the whole profile, from summary, headline, job description.
Yes,
So I think that's the one that
Yeah.
they're pretty good at. You have that, right?
yes. Yeah, so we have both their database option and their real-time option. Real-time can get fairly expensive. We're we're not marking it up any more than everything else. It's just a generally expensive endpoint, and that's doing like real-time parsing of all that information to make sure it's like 100% recent. Their database is very cost effective. So yes, we have it. I would just make sure that in terms of like budgeting that you're aware of how much it costs. I think I don't know the price off the top of my head, but I want to say it's in like the 30-cent range for real time. And that's like the exhaustive most recent. I don't know why my screen share just keeps going out. All right, I will look at that after. A more cost-effective option might be something like Appify or alternative options. We're adding another job description provider as well that might be useful. Oh, we have a couple more. We have their stack, Crust Data, and we're adding Centrion, which generally folks have said is really high quality as well.
All right. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Of course. Awesome. Yeah, just kind of touching on it. So same thing with like lead data and hierarchies. You can combine data sets from 4 or 5 different places. So here we're combining Apollo drop leads with full enrich, with LinkedIn, with Appify. Let's see. Let's find one that has a better accuracy. Yeah, real-time Appify live scrape. And we're taking all this to get like the most exhaustive kind of view into this company and why we think they're in this particular like level versus a different level, and who reports to who and what we're making that decision based off. This is a recipe that comes packaged with the product. And then we also want to just flag who we found data for, but based on more recent data, don't believe that they work there anymore. So we might find someone in like 3 or 4 data sources and then say, wait, looks like they actually are now the CFO of Temporal. So that's not someone we want to include. Or this person went to start a company and they should no longer be in the org chart. And the use case here is really for like account-based sales teams. Like these are the 2 people that we are selling to. Who reports to them? Who do they report into directly? And what's like the who else should we be multi-threading for this like buying committee? And you can combine it with the intelligence of here's our product, here should be relevant, who should be relevant, and take all those signals and try to create different angles for how to enter and prioritize it by who's actually useful. So Claude does all the work here. What we are providing is giving Claude like the proprietary data, visibility, recommendations on how to find reporting lines, basically looking at like job title, geo, how long they've been there, what their job description is, and combine all that information. So the way I kind of like to think about it is we're just like dumping as much good context within Claude as possible and hoping that it gets to a better result than what we'd be able to do without that extra data. Awesome. Waterfall optimization. Cool. I think I have this here. So generally, like our waterfalls are designed to be very focused on like what is the best for the average person if we have no context on the type of contact or why this particular, like what the ICP is. If we just get a CSV and no context, we want to maximize the likelihood of getting a good valid email for that. And we're optimizing for cost per marginal cost of valid email. So what is the expected validation rate that will be successful times the cost, and then we order by that. So it's not always the cheapest provider and it's not always the highest valid rate. It's a weighted value between the 2. We also do this pattern match validation, which works really well with like a company with 50 to 100 people, but won't work at like a Boeing because you have people with the same name. So this is like selectively useful. If there's like 50 Chris's at a company, you're not going to want to guess Chris at is the best one and consider that a valid email. But if there's 25 or 50 people at a company, you can actually see if there's other Chris's and then decide whether that's a useful thing. But the benefit is it's just super cost effective because you're only paying for validation, which is like cents on the dollar. So yeah, that's just a pattern for work emails that we generally recommend because the cost values is pretty impactful. And then it will go down the waterfall and see where we're getting them and what the invalid rate was. So what we were checking here for this particular data set was a ICP definition of mid-market CFOs. And we found that the drop leads data was actually getting much higher invalids and unknowns than it does on the average person. So it generally does well in like standard B2B SaaS, like big tech, but it does not do well in like mid-market, less common or less commonly targeted companies. So for this particular use case, we would actually run the sample, do a small set of like, I usually recommend 50 in your exact sample, and then have it do a more exhaustive test of like, hey, is this actually a good waterfall for this particular use case? And then you can say, let's optimize it or change it up. And so what we ended up with is, I think it might be, which workspace did I put in? What's the B2 play? I think it is here. I have a lot of workspaces, so I'm trying to remember which one I put this one in. I think it should be here. Cool. So this was a like very simple workflow. You can get to see what I mean, where you can see the steps that we're taking. So here we're doing Prospeo and Deepline Native. Trying to find the one that I just created. Now, let me just re-add it. To Jai's workspace. Perfect. So that should add it here. While that is building, I can show you some examples of the new workflow platform. And so what this is now doing, essentially like every task that you run can be visualized as this. So even like small tasks that you may not want to do forever, we at least like can visualize it. We can reference it if necessary, but it won't be automatically set to run. Essentially, this is one I did set to run, and I'm doing a pharma CTO search. Decided I wanted the drop leads 3 people search first, and we have this concept of fan out, and this basically means like running sub workflows on individual rows. So I might want to enrich emails. This is how we handle like if you have per row logic that might need to be different between different things. You can have one query and then take every row in that and have it go down a separate path. And this is like splitting one set of results into a table essentially. So you can kind of think of it like a join in Clay of a table of company names. And then based on that, you might want rows split out of all contacts with some attribute. That would be an equivalent here. So we're calling it a fan out. And then the ultimate thing it will create is just a database table that is similar to what you would have on your client side, like a CSV, but we just log those results now for you. And so this is in beta with a few customers. You can see like I ran that email validation task. And so I have the results here. If I delete the CSV or don't know exactly what I'm trying to do later on, or don't remember what I did or which ones worked, this table is always accessible, and I can get the table name, the reveal URL, and that will let Claude just query it and get the exact results again. Perfect. And so let's see if this added. Cool. So now it should be in my workspace. Workflows, daily email waterfall. So looks like it rolled it together. Have to love a warm or a live demo. So you guys can't really see it here, but it is has this. It has all the code for the waterfall above, like what it's doing, and the order it's going in. This is all like kind of pre-built logic that's getting combined. So each step is a separate one. Looks like the UI is not visualizing this correctly. So let me try debugging that. Can you debug the visualization? Sure, it's on YouTube. Cool. Anything else that would be useful to cover today? We have about 10 minutes left. Any other questions or challenges you guys are facing? Any feedback on the product?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
So first of all, your product is very impressive, especially you're trying to select data from different aspects. I'm not working on SMB, but I have a friend working on a company. They are targeting housing service. So I want to recommend your product to her. And I was wondering, how should I phrase my word? Like, what's the, I think the biggest question here is, what's the difference between you and Apollo? So we all use Apollo to like download maybe thousands of data. What's the difference between your data and their data?
Yeah, that's a great question. The way I would think about it is like Apollo is one data source. So like the enrichment waterfalls. Let's see if I can find a visualization. And images. Cool. So let me just share my screen here. And so when I was just explaining that like waterfall concept of optimizing your waterfall, Apollo is generally like depending on the business model that you have, they're going to get about 65% of your audience on average. And it might be like, let's say 3 months out of date occasionally. It might be their last job or might not be relevant anymore. So your accuracy with just one provider is almost always like the best ones are probably like 80, 85%. Apollo is really cost effective at scale. So that's usually where people start. And it's a little bit more out of date and the coverage is a little bit lower. So it's really easy for people to get started there. But as soon as you want more accurate data or data that isn't in the Apollo data set, which like that SMB stuff or housing services, I'm not exactly sure what that market looks like, but you can essentially just run that last 30 days skill and say what data sources should I be looking at, and it'll make recommendations for you. But you can see that in this example here, you might not have an email in Apollo or data drop contact or whatever other one. But then if you try like 10, one of them might have it. And so if you only get like an additional 2 or 3%, because they only charge you when they successfully find an email, it just financially and like quality of output makes sense just to try all of them until you find a good email. So Apollo is just like one provider. We are letting you search 96 providers for different data points. Not all of them are just email. Lots of different things. We have job listings and phone numbers and SEO data. I can't actually think of all the things that we now service, but any data point you want, we can go combine 5 or 6 multiple data sources cost effectively to find the best set of data points to solve that problem. Does that answer your question.
Yeah. They kind of answered my question. I
Yeah.
also have another
Yeah.
maybe irrelevant question. Where did you find us? So I was invited by you from Luma.
Mhm.
I guess I don't know if you used my email or just my Luma
Yeah.
account.
I invited
just
everyone who's
curious.
attended a previous event of ours. So anyone who's attended or like RSVP'd for one of our events on Luma. So we have like in-person events in New York, that might be it, or any like virtual events we've done in the past.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Thank you for that.
I'm happy to check, but I don't recall exactly.
Got
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, just tend to send invites to folks who have attended similar events in the past.
Got it. That's basically all my question. Thank you.
Perfect, awesome. Cool, 5 more minutes. Anything else top of mind or anything you guys are struggling with right now? Happy to dig into any examples.
Hello, Jay. Good afternoon.
Yeah.
Can you listen to me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh,
Great.
my name is Licurgo. Good afternoon, everyone.
Yeah.
I recently start to use Deepline, and I have a trouble to understand how I can understand the signals for the databases provided at the end of the execution on cloud. I'm working a marketing agency, and we are developing GTM systems for our clients. And we are trying to start a new campaign to find mainly manufacturing founder-led companies. And from my side, I'm lacking to understand how I can get good signals after seeing the enrichment from Deepline.
Yeah, can you maybe rephrase the question of like, what do you mean by finding a good signal after enrichment? Do you have an example of something you tried or what you would expect?
For example, I was just drafting something yesterday for example, a mining company that I was searching for. There is a big event in London next week, and I was trying to searching for anyone who maybe participate or to be a speaker on this event, and I couldn't find any information using Deepline. He threw me to another event who could find this speakers, but I couldn't find people for this event specifically, and I couldn't classify them especially.
Okay, do you have the name of the event?
Yes, it's just let me check 1 sec.
Yeah.
It's Mining World Congress 2026
Okay.
in London.
Awesome. Cool. So what I
This
would.
one is, I think this one is in Peru that you are seeing it.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, yeah, no problem. There's 2 events with close names. The website is miningconference.org. O-R-G. Yeah, that one.
So yeah, what I would first. Cool. So they didn't list it publicly. Speakers, agenda. All right, no public agenda yet. Awesome. So 2 things I would probably do. Do you have someone attending this? Do you know of anyone attending it?
Honestly, no.
Yeah.
I saw this event. One of our clients were looking to participate those events, but we didn't see anyone from major player in the market going to this event. We were trying to understand who is going and what is happening in this event exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, this looks like a different one. 2025. London virtual. Yeah, so let's just try this. Last 30 days. Can you find all the data sources to see who is attending Mining conferences. So I'm going to do this in one tab. Generally these types of events. Cool. So that's going to check social media. And then I'm going to do clear Deepline GTM. Can you find all social media, see LinkedIn references for mining world conference in London, not the Peru one. Cool. Do the research anyways. So sometimes the last 30 days we'll say this is like not a good use case for this. Just help to do it anyways, because it actually still gives pretty good results. So it's going to look at, again, Twitter, Reddit, Instagram, TikTok, which you would think is not going to be a good fit for these types of data sources. But we actually do still get pretty good data sources. And so what it's going to do next is a web LinkedIn scraping task. So that is what I would recommend. So it should just do a bunch of searches and try to find different examples. And it looks like it found a couple pages within the website of potential speakers that were indexed but no longer listed. So I don't know if this is from last year, maybe. Yeah, typically there's a page or something. It does look like these are people who went last year. Yeah, were you able to get these outputs? So it looks like you can see folks who went last year. That might be a good place to start. But it's just going and trying to find all of the potential ones. Found some on Facebook, Bolden Networks. Is this, am I going in the right direction? Is this what you were looking for?
Yes, the problem was mainly to find participants for this year. Like last year was like okay to find, but this year's I don't know what is happening. I think it's a problem with their website from this event.
Yeah.
I
the
didn't
website-
even know about the other event in Peru. I was not to specify for cloud, and they throw me some data from Peru also.
Got it. Yeah. I think the website is kind of brutal, but honestly, so I think it's gonna run. It's trying to find data on the website, but it's not actually seeing anything. This might be folks from last year, yeah, multiple years ago. So their website just isn't up to date. I don't think it's going to be publicly available. If the website doesn't publish it, we're just finding public information. So if people don't talk about it on LinkedIn and don't talk about it anywhere else, and they don't put anything on the website, that is going to be a challenge. The other thing that usually happens is when you sign up for the conference, they'll give you like another website or a document or something. You can just copy and paste that in, and usually like the conference website for attendees is different, and that will usually have more information. Like here are the talks, for example. So I think without signing up, it might be hard. And then it does look like it's finding folks speaking here.
It's a big
Yeah.
event. It's going like next week already, and there is a lot of problems with data from this event.
Yeah. So these are the 6 that it found, 2026. Elizabeth Foote, Simon Popple, Sophia Orm, Dr. Ash. And yeah, those are just the public ones. So think, yeah, you're not going to get great data if the company doesn't publish anything, but you can definitely take a look at these folks. Generally find it. The other things you can try are if there's a LinkedIn or like Eventbrite, anything like that. So what would an example be here? Mining World Congress. Groups. 2026. Or events. Yeah, so this one. Nope, this is for real also. But if you are attending, you can see the other attendees usually. So it does all
this
that
is one is from Peru.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are hiding this event. I don't know what is happening right now with them.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe you can also just ask this person because she seems to be the sole promoter for everything. So trying to get a list or convince someone to go. Often you can just like ask people. They won't share the exact attendee list, but they might be able to tell you types of people, and you can use that.
That's
Cool.
fine.
That's
You already
all.
gave me a good north right now, or I can
Yeah.
start with.
Yep. And I'm going to Deepline feedback. Cool. Yeah. A couple of minutes left. Anything else I can potentially answer?
A similar thing was asked today in GDM Cafe, how to get Sastre and Sastanak visitors, attendees. So I was also first thinking like, is there like the friendly backend for visitors that they could use? And then what are the other options, how to get the list if there's no event on LinkedIn? I was trying to search kind of posts because usually people post like I'm at Sastanak or I will be at Sastanak, but EXA didn't find many.
Yeah.
So it found like several, maybe dozen, but not much. So I don't know how alternatively you would search kind of affiliation of people to events.
Yeah. If you are attending the event, there's usually like what's an example? So I went to the SASTR one, and they give you an attendee. But this is a terrible website, but an attendee portal. And then what I actually did, which is probably not okay, but they had this app. And if I recall correctly, there was a way to see if I can log in. So this one was easy because all the speakers were listed. So you can just give it the page, and this is public. You can get everyone on here. So I think I reached out to everyone on this list before I went. And then this one, generally, like, unless they really know what they're doing, most of these websites are not super good on security. So you can take this attendees JavaScript, copy as curl, and then say find all the people in here. So this is one that is like not speakers, it's other people that opted into this meeting tool. So it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be every attendee. There were a lot more attendees, but at least just another set of data that might be useful. So to get this, you can basically just go through these network calls and try to find one that has the username. So this is attendee one, and then what their attributes are, get their name and company, copy and paste this into Deepline or whatever. Go find, get all the pages of this API call, and then enrich them. Add them to a lemlist campaign. And lemlist is our outbound email tool. So I'm giving it the curl that I just got here. I know I zoom past that, but you right click the API part. You're looking for the one that has the name in it. Do that, copy as curl. You want the curl because it will include the cookie ID that you need to log in here. And generally this should work. This won't work for everything. Sites like Zillow or Craigslist intentionally don't do this. They use server-side rendering. But any like company that is just trying to move quickly is probably just going to do everything client-side. And so this API is going to be the easiest way.
Yeah, I was also thinking this way, but you need to be the attendee to get all this out from
Yeah,
public
yeah.
domain, like not being the attendee. The only thing is just, I don't know, the social listening, right?
Public versus private. You need someone who is going to the event usually to get access to the app. It's like behind auth or something. And then you're trying to figure out alternatives. So it's very rare because the attendee list is so valuable in itself. It's fairly rare to get that like fully public. There are, I think, companies that sell it for like really big ones, but I have never used those. Generally, like if it's what I'm going to, I am going to it, and that's when I'm using this. I haven't done it for ones we don't have anyone attending yet. Yeah, if that comes up, happy to take a look. Cool. Awesome. Yeah, let me know if there's anything else. I appreciate everyone taking the time today. Let me know if you have any other questions. Happy to answer stuff on the harness structure. That was for Cell. Sorry, I didn't see these questions. We did record, so Fireflies, we have everything. Yep. So Nick, yeah, exactly what we were doing there. The bearer token, that curl request has the bearer token, and that is what I'm trying to get there. You can also, if you don't want to look through the logs, you can do this download function. And this downloads a HAR file. And that HAR file should have everything as well. And it will be able to go find the right API call. Here, I just found it quickly, so I just did the one call I care about. You can also just download everything and have them do that instead. Cool. Awesome. Yeah, I'll send out the meeting recording, the notes. If you have any other questions, don't hesitate to reach out.